Well, hello and welcome to Movement Church Online. I'm Chris, I'm the pastor here at Movement. We're so glad that you made the decision to join us for this Sunday. First of all, let me say happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there watching. We are so grateful for you, for everything that you do within your family, within our church. We are so grateful for you. We couldn't be the church that we are without you. And we just want to say we hope you have an incredible day. We hope you have a blessed day. We hope your family and your loved ones celebrate you. And we are just so grateful for you. Today, we are in part 2 of a series called That's Great, where we're talking about how to be great the way Jesus defined greatness, how to live a life of service, because as Jesus said, greatness is found through service. So we're going to talk about how to be great, and we're going to look at this incredible story that has come to be known as the parable of the Good Samaritan. And so I hope you're ready to dive in today. Hope you'll take some notes. Hope you might think about sharing this with someone that you think might find this to be helpful, and someone that you think might find this to be helpful in helping them to take a first step or a next step in a relationship with Jesus. But we're going to dive right in today to That's Great, part 2. Well, last week I started our series, That's Great, by telling you the first thing in life that I found that I thought I could be great at in junior Bible quiz and when I started in 3rd grade. And then the next thing that I tried to be great at in middle school basketball, and it was a colossal failure because I was not great at basketball. And there are some important distinctions that we need to make, we need to understand when you're chasing greatness. And these are important, so in case you haven't realized this yet, some of you may want to write these down. Number one is that there can be a big difference between what you want to be great at and the things that you actually are great at, okay? Like you may have wanted to be great at singing, but God didn't give you those vocal cords. He gave you a mind for math. Like you may have wanted to be great at photography, but all your pictures turned out blurry, and it wasn't because of bad cameras. You kept buying more expensive cameras, and the pictures were still all turning out blurry. You just couldn't figure that out. God gave you blurry picture hands, but He gave you a great talent for baking. There can be a significant difference between the things that you want to be great at and the things that you're actually great at, or the things that you actually can be great at. And then the second thing is equally important, maybe even more important. There can be a significant difference between the things that you're great at and things that will actually make you money in life, right? Like there could be a big difference in that. Matter of fact, for some of you, that's the main takeaway today, right? Like you're like, whoa. I can be great at something and it doesn't make me any money. It's not going to form a career. Absolutely. You can be great at music and make no money from music. You can be pursuing being great at a sport, and only the top 0.1% of athletes in that sport actually make any money from it. Matter of fact, some of you ended up in a different major or a different career than the one you dreamed of because your parents who loved you, they said, sweetie, we love you, and there is no money to be made in being an interpretive dance history major. Okay, like there are just some things, like some of you are like, wait. Am I in a major that's about to make no money? Absolutely, because there's a significant difference between the things you can be great at, and you can be great at those things and great in those majors and understand everything there is to know about those majors and those career fields, and it will make you no money. And then last week we introduced one other really important difference when it comes to the pursuit of greatness. There's a significant difference between being great at and actually being great. There's a significant difference between being great at something and actually being great. And as we looked at the words and instruction of Jesus, while his disciples were arguing about which of them were the greatest, Jesus has no problem with us wanting to be great and desiring to be great, and doesn't even seem to mind us competing for who can be the greatest. But in the midst of all that, Jesus wants to make sure that we're aiming at the right thing, that we're aiming at true greatness, real greatness. So Jesus defined greatness, or defined the path toward living a truly great life. Jesus said that greatness is found through service. It's found through service. It's not found through position. It's not found through a financial position. It's not found in all the things that we so often chase. And that while it's fine to pursue talent and skill and position and financial stability and influence and whatever else we try to pursue, none of those things are what will make a person great. What makes us great is when we take whatever we may have of those things and we use them for the good and the benefit of those around us, or someone specific around us. And that leads us right into today's discussion, because if it's true that being great is not about what we have, but about what we do with whatever we may have, that actually leaves us with a little bit of an uncomfortable truth that we're going to sit with and lean into this tension today. But the tension is that greatness is a choice. Greatness is a choice. And that can be a little bit uncomfortable for some of us today, right? Because what we tend to do is we think, well, I'd be great if I had more time, if I had more influence, if I had more energy, if I was in better shape, if I had a better job, if I had more money, if I had a nicer house, if I had this, if I had this, if I had this, if I had. And I'm not judging you for that because I am just as guilty of that as anybody. But isn't it true that you've known people who were truly great who had very little money? And you've known people who were truly great who had lots of money. Like, and isn't it true that you've known truly great people who had loads of free time to use however they wanted and invest however they wanted? And you've also known truly great people who had the busiest schedules that you've ever seen, and somehow they managed to squeeze in meaningful time for you. And all of that is to say, again, greatness is a choice, which means greatness never requires a criteria, but greatness always requires a choice. Greatness never requires a criteria. There's never a criteria in which you have to meet these requirements, meet this criteria in order to be great. Greatness simply requires a choice. And it may not be a simple choice. It may not be an easy choice. It's going to be a choice that requires something of you. But greatness never requires a criteria that you have to meet in advance. Greatness, though, always requires a choice. Anyone, this is what that means. Anyone can choose a life of greatness. Anyone can choose a moment of greatness. High school students and college students can be great, and so can 40-year-olds, and so can 60-year-olds, and so can 80-year-olds, and so can 100-year-olds. People who work full-time at a job and full-time moms can both be great. People of every skin color can be great. People with all different income levels can be great. People with all kinds of different, free levels of free time that they can just choose to do whatever they want with can be great. Being truly great is not about what you already have, but what you do with whatever you do have, with whatever you choose to do with whatever you have, which means, unfortunately, when we live a life that's not great, and this is the rub, when we live a life that's not great, or not certainly not great by the standard that Jesus set for what greatness truly looks like, it's not because we don't have what we need in order to be great. It's because we choose not to use what we already have. Or we think that what we have is not enough, so we sit on the sidelines. The way I put it for the notes is simply this, that we don't miss opportunities to be great because we don't see them. We miss opportunities to be great because we talk ourselves out of them. We miss opportunities to be great, not because we don't see the opportunity. We miss opportunities to be great because we talk ourselves out of us or what we have being any part of the solution or being enough to be a part of the solution. We miss opportunities to be great because we convince ourselves that we don't already have what it takes to do something about the problem that we see, or that what we bring to the table isn't enough to make a difference in the opportunities that are presented to us, or we don't have enough time to fully invest ourselves. And we see the need and we have a desire to do the need. We think someone should do something about that thing. Someone should bring their resource to that. Someone should bring their time to that. But we talk ourselves out of being the someone, out of being the someone who has something to offer. Again, it's not that we don't see the need or see an opportunity to help or see an opportunity to get involved. Most of the time, it's that we simply think we don't have enough time, don't have enough finances, don't have enough influence to make a difference. And so here's the rub. If we're not careful, what we will do is we will settle for being great at something, great at making money, great at vacations, great at our job, great at whatever we might be great at, while being surrounded by opportunities to choose greatness, but passing on them because we think we don't have enough blank. And so with that as the background of seeing opportunities, but convincing ourselves that we aren't the answer, or seeing opportunities, but passing up an opportunity to be great the way Jesus defined great through our service. Today I want to look at something that Jesus said, where Jesus didn't actually use the word great or greatness, but what he talks about here is certainly an outflow of what he said last week, that the greatest would be the servant of all, that we display greatness through service. And so at this point in time, Jesus is asked a question. And in Luke chapter 10, we get the question starting in verse 25. It says, on one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Now, an expert in the law can be read two ways. One is as a lawyer in a trial, and the second would be as an expert in the religious law of the day. And in this context, it's kind of both, right? Like the Jewish people at that time didn't have their own civil law or any ability to enforce a civil law that they would have had, but they did have their own religious law and could enforce that within the confines of Roman civil law. So this is someone who knows that religious law of the day inside and out. And if you know anything about lawyers in this moment, like lawyers don't ask questions that they don't already know the answer to. So he knows the answer. He wants to hear Jesus' answer. And Jesus does what Jesus so often did. In verse 26, well, what is written in the law? He replied, how do you read it? Jesus turns the question, he's like sneaky Jesus, ninja move. He turns his own question back on him, sneaky, like, what do you think? What's your answer? How do you read it? And he answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. He's a smart lawyer. He gives Jesus' own answer back to him. In other words, he says, Jesus, I've been paying attention. I'm not trying to trap you, but I do want to test you to see if you're being consistent. So I'm going to give you your answer back to you. So like, I've been paying attention. I'm pretty sure I already know your answer to the question. How do I receive eternal life? Well, I love the Lord my God with all my soul and my strength and my heart and my mind, and I love my neighbor as myself. That's what I got to do, right? And in verse 28, it says, you have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. He says, but he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, well, who is my neighbor? So at one point, before we get into what happens next, and some of you already know what comes next, but it's that phrase, he wanted to justify himself. It's kind of an interesting phrase, isn't it? Have you ever wanted to justify yourself? Like, Jesus just said, you already know, and that's good. And then separately, he says, when you start to do this, you will live. Implying that while the lawyer knows, the lawyer is not doing. And so the man is a little on the defensive, like we would be in this moment, like you are when you want to justify yourself. When you've got some behavior and you've got a decision that you made and you've got something that you've done and you've got something that you said and you're like, oh well, I was hangry, I'm not myself when I don't have a Snickers, and like I was really tired in that moment, or I was dehydrated and clearly wasn't thinking clearly, and so we're justifying ourselves. And so coming to all kinds of rationale, all kinds of reasoning for why we did what we did and why we haven't done what we haven't done and why we're doing the things and making the decisions that we're making, right? So that's what it means to justify yourself. So he says he wants to justify himself. It means he wants Jesus to know that he is doing something. He's doing something. He's loving some of his neighbors. Jesus, I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing something. And what I'm doing is enough, right? That's what's happening in this moment. Jesus, like, I'm not doing nothing. Am I doing enough to be great? Is the people that I am loving, is that enough to be great? The way that you've defined greatness. So it says this in verse 30. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going to, and everyone's like, no, not another parable. Just answer his question. We can never figure out what there are. And you give your disciples an opportunity, like you explain it to them behind closed doors, and they all come out and taunt us with the fact that they know what you meant, and none of us knew what we meant. Like, don't give us another story. But Jesus gives us a story. Jesus gives us a parable. And it's one of the most memorable parables. This is a parable that I get, even if you're not a church person, you know this parable. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. He's walking a dangerous road, and while he's walking this dangerous road, danger comes at him. He was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Not dead, but half dead. Here's the story. Someone is in need. Someone is in serious need. The needs are not light, they are heavy. They are not light, they are not easy, they are heavy. The needs involved are significant. This is not a situation where you can just walk up and go, praying for you, hope you get better. This is not a need where you can just, like, hey, whoop, this is not a 5-minute need. This is not a 1-hour need. This is not a one conversation over coffee need. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some resources. It's going to take someone who has time, and it takes resources to help this person. Luckily, the people that pass by are people who have some resources and have some time. So it tells us this in verse 31. A priest, this is a significant religious person. This is a person whose job it is to know the law. This is a person who, because they know the law, they have a full-time job that cares for them and provides for them. They have resources. It is on this guy's calendar all the time, 168 hours a day. Be good and do good. So a priest happened to be going down the same road. And when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. Now, again, I'm not going to get into all the reasons that he may have done this. I think we can all think of reasons that he may have, passed by. He's on a dangerous road too. Who knows if the people are going to come out to get him as well? Who knows if this is a trap? Maybe just someone who's faking an injury so to get him to stop so that someone can we don't know all the reasons. But here's what we do know: the priest saw, and the priest passed on the opportunity to help. This was a person who had the resources, who had the authority, who had the influence, and who certainly had the opportunity. And when they saw, he talked himself out of helping. For whatever reason, he talked himself out of helping the man in need. Verse 32, so too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. This is a person who, similarly to a priest, this is like the priest of the priest. This is a Levite. This isn't just someone who works at the temple. This is someone in the orderly line of priesthood. This is someone who traces their lines back, like their family line back to the time of Moses, when Moses made their family line priests. This is like the best of the best. They have financial stability, they've got financial resources, they've got time, they can call other people. I mean, they didn't have a cell phone, but they could have gotten someone if they needed to. Could have walked back a couple, a half a mile to get someone. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. Again, the Levite saw, just like the priest saw. I mean, they both see the same need, the same opportunity to serve, the same opportunity to put their service on display and serve and meet someone's need and help someone in need. But he passed the opportunity to help. So, verse 33 says this, but a Samaritan, as he traveled, he came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, and he bandaged his wounds. Now, this is a person who's been beaten half to death. The wounds are significant. There's blood on the ground. There's blood that must be cleaned up. There are open wounds probably. This is a health risk. But he bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. He's not just covering the wounds, he's doing something to treat the wounds. He's using some of what he has on him, of some oil and some wine, to help this man in the immediate moment. Then he put the man on his own donkey, meaning he didn't just go, all right, your wounds are bandaged, but I got to get going. I got to get moving. The sun's about to set. I got to get to where I'm going, because who knows what's going to happen out here. He put the man on his own donkey, meaning he got off his donkey, put the man on his donkey. He's walking beside the donkey while the man is riding the donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. This is a man who had a plan, was walking this road because he had somewhere that he needed to get to. And now he decides, instead of getting where I need to get to, I'm going to stop at this inn and take care of this man. The next day, so he spends the night. He took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. He said, look after him, he said. And when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have. Now, again, let me try to give a little bit of a we can get fixated on, well, the priest may have had this, and like what might have been happening in people's minds. And I think while we do that, we sometimes miss the larger, Jesus is telling one really clear story. There was a priest who saw an opportunity, and he passed the opportunity to help. There's a Levite who saw the opportunity to help someone and passed the opportunity to help someone. It doesn't really matter why they did. Somehow they talked themselves out of serving. Somehow they talked themselves out of the opportunity to help someone and to save someone who is in desperate need. And there was a Samaritan who didn't have any of the background that they had, maybe didn't have any of the resources that they had, but he saw the same thing and he decided to serve. That's the whole story. Now, we can get into all kinds of stuff about priests and Levites and Samaritans being the bad guys, and Samaritans being people who didn't have any religious pedigree, and all. Like we can get into all of that. And at the end of the day, Jesus seemed to use these words and these names to draw out an emotional response. Well, surely that guy's not going to help. And he's the guy who ends up helping. But at the end of the day, there's one person who saw and did nothing. They talked themselves out of helping, even though they had resources to help. And there's a second person who saw and had resources that they certainly could have helped with. And they saw the opportunity and they passed right on by. And the third person saw and probably didn't have all of the same resources that the other two people did have, but they did have a little bit of time, and they did have a little bit of opportunity, and they did have a little bit of oil and a little bit of wine, and they did have a donkey, and they had 2 denarii. And that was enough to help the man. He did not talk himself out of using what he had to help this person. All 3 people saw, but there was 2 very different responses. By the way, the priest and the Levite, they may have had some very good reasons to not help this hurt man, just like we so often have. We wouldn't be able to talk ourselves out of helping when we see a need if we didn't have some good reason on the other side. And let me clarify again, what the Samaritan did in this moment, it was a dangerous thing. Again, this man had just been beaten by robbers. It was very possible they were still in the area. Stopping to help was a dangerous thing. It was an expensive thing. He uses his own oil. He uses his own wine. He gives his own 2 denarii. He uses his own horse. He pays for them to stay at the inn for this night. Like, it's an expensive thing. It's also a difficult thing. He has to physically lift this man, use his own physical strength. I mean, this is what leads me to believe this is at least a young man, or at least a grown man with grown man strength, whatever that looks like. He does a difficult thing. He stops, he bends down on the ground, gets involved, like gets down where there's the dust and the blood and it's all mixing. He's got to figure out how to wrap the wounds. It's a difficult thing, and it's an involved thing. It's an involved thing. This is time intensive. This requires something of him personally. You can't see a need like that and be that close to it without being personally impacted by it, without wanting to cry yourself, without worrying about what this is going to, like, oh, my schedule is now completely off the shelf. Like, this is what we're doing right now. It's an involved thing. He's personally involved because he decided to get personally involved. That's what it takes in this moment. He said, I see a need and I can meet it. I see a need and I can serve. I see a need and there's something that I can do. So I'm going to do what I can do for this person in need. And so Jesus, not being done, but he's got someone who asked a question. So Jesus decides to ask a question in return. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? Again, Jesus, like a good lawyer, Jesus also didn't ask questions that he didn't know the answer to. And the expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Notice verse 37, Jesus didn't say, I'm so glad you know which one did the right thing. Jesus didn't say, I'm so glad you believe the right thing. I'm so glad you understood the point of my sermon, and my parable. Jesus, like, this is a pretty open and shut case parable. This is a pretty obvious parable. Go and do likewise. Who's your neighbor? Anyone who's in need. Who's your neighbor? Anyone who's got an opportunity where you can serve. Who's your neighbor? Anyone who it looks like they're having a tough time and you have a way to help them. That's your neighbor. Go and do likewise. Now, this is going to kind of sound a little cheesy, but if you've been around any kind of church in your life, you already know the name of this parable, right? This is the parable of the Good Samaritan, right? This is the parable of the Good Samaritan. Yeah, the Good Samaritan. Interestingly, if you notice, Jesus never called the man a good Samaritan. It's not in the actual text of the Bible. Jesus doesn't say this man was good while the other two guys were kind of jerks. Like he doesn't say any of that. And I would submit to you that based on what we just read last week about how Jesus defined greatness, if Jesus was going to give the name to this parable, this man was more than good. And from now on, I would suggest that maybe we start referring to this story as the parable of the Great Samaritan. Because this man had a chance to be great, had a choice to be great toward a person in need when the opportunity presented itself, and he chose to be great the way Jesus defined greatness. And in that way, this story points us towards today's bottom line. And today's bottom line is simply this, that greatness is a choice we make every day. Greatness is a choice we make every day. The choice to use our time, to use our resources, to get personally involved, to use our finances, to get financially involved, to do some things that maybe other people would think of as dangerous because we put ourselves in difficult situations, to do things that other people might think like that's too much, it's too hard, it's too far. But to simply say, if there's someone in need and I can help, I want to make the choice to help every time I have the opportunity to make it. Like every time I can do something, I want to do something. Every time I can be of help, I want to be of help. Greatness is a choice we make every day, and it's a choice we make every day because every day when you wake up, you will be confronted and you will be presented with different opportunities than you have been presented before. You'll have opportunities to help and serve. You have opportunities to meet someone for coffee that needs a little bit of advice and needs some wisdom. But I want to be a person who, when I can help, I make the decision to help. I make the decision that when I can meet someone for coffee and my schedule allows for it, I do meet someone for coffee. And I don't find a reason not to, and I don't find something to put on my calendar to not have that coffee. That when someone needs wisdom and advice, when someone needs a call from their pastor, that they get a call from, like, I want to make sure that I'm being that person. And we have to make that decision every single day. Greatness is a choice we make every day. And if we're going to make that decision every day, eventually we have to make a decision in the permanent form that at some point that we're not going to let our blank get in the way of being great. We're going to not let the busyness of our job get in the way of being great. We're not going to let the busyness of family life get in the way of being great. We're not going to let the fact that I don't make $90,000 a year, so I can't be great. I only make 80, and until I make we're not going to let that get in the way of being great either. We're going to simply make the decision that with what I have and with what I am and with the time that I've got and the energy that I've got and the schedule that I've got and the resources I've got and the finances that I've got and the influences that I do have, not just waiting for some day where I'm going to have more than I do have right now. With what I have, I'm going to choose to be great. And so today, as we come to a close, I wanted to give you 3 ideas of how we make this decision and 3 ways that we stop talking ourselves out of things. I'm going to also talk about how we tend to talk ourselves out of these things. But I want to give you 3 ideas to help you become great and make the decision every day to be great. See, here's the first one. Greatness sees a need it can meet and meets it. It doesn't make excuses. It doesn't try to wiggle out. It just simply says, if there's a need I can meet, I'm going to meet it. Now, what you're going to see is there are oftentimes big, huge needs, and you can't meet the whole need. But what you are going to see within that is there is something that you can do. There's some part of that need that you can meet. And what we tend to do is go, well, I can't meet the whole need. And we overlook the part that we can meet. What great people do, according to Jesus, great people see a need they can meet, and it might not be the whole need. It might not be the whole situation. It might not solve everything for the person on the other end of it. But if I see a need I can meet, I make the decision that I'm going to meet it. This is what we've been saying around our church forever. Love sees a need it can meet and meets it. Greatness, great people see a need they can meet financially, with a little bit of time, with a little bit of rolling up their sleeves and getting involved. Great people see a need they can meet and they meet it. The second one is that greatness sees a part it can play and it plays it. Great people see a part they can play and they play it. They go, well, I can't do everything, but I can do something. I can't do everything, but I can do something. I can't do everything that they need, but I may have something that they need. There's a part that I can play in helping to meet their need. I can't I can't do I can't pay the innkeeper and have and put him on my donkey and use my oil and use my wine and stop in the middle of it. Like I can't do all of that. I can't do all of that, but I have a donkey. You're like you don't have like I can't do all of that, but I do have a truck. I can't do all of that, but I do have something that I can do. There's a part that I can play. I think sometimes we look at things like in our world. Like I don't think this is going to come as a surprise, but we live in a world that has an entirely broken foster care system. And we look at it as a church, we've kind of begun to look at this and go like, well, what is it that we can do? We can't fix an entire broken system because the broken system involves in government, and that's not our sphere of influence. But what we've begun to think about is like when it comes to time to when we have our own building, and we're so close on that. But when we have our own building, is there a way that we can support and come alongside foster families and create a foster parents night out where we watch foster children, we take care of foster children so that parents can get a night where they have the freedom to be husband and wife and enjoy time with each other so that they can come back to be healthier, more stable like in their relationship people so that they do a great job. Can we come alongside and play a part so that we can support people who are in the system helping out in ways that they can? Is there a part that we can play? And we're so excited that for a building that we can use when we talk about it not just being a Sunday morning thing, but being a building that we can utilize throughout the week in incredible ways. Those are the things that we're talking about. Is there a part that we can play? So that while others are playing their part, we can play a part to support what they are doing. Here's the third thing. Greatness knows what's in our own cup and pours it out. Again, like so often when we see a need, it's so big, I can't do something about that whole thing. I've just got this small little cup. And that's a big old, that's an igloo cooler size of need. I've just got what's in my cup. And here's what I think this is so important. This is knowing your own limits, but not using your limitations as excuses to avoid serving. This says, well, that's a bigger need than I can meet by myself. All I've got is my cup. But while I've got my cup, I'm going to use what's in my cup to pour it out to help in this need. So I'm not responsible for filling anyone else's cup. Their cup of their need may be bigger than the cup of my resources. But I am called continuously by Jesus and continuously by the New Testament to pour out my own cup. Like I'm not called to fill anyone else's, but I am called to live a life that pours my own life out. Like I'm not responsible for giving more than I have, but I am called to give what I do have. This is what it looks like to be great. Greatness sees a need that it can meet and it meets it. Greatness sees a part it can play and it plays it. Greatness knows what's in our own cup and it decides to pour it out. And so in light of all of that, as we close today, I want to teach you a question. And some of you may already be familiar with this question, but this is a big question. In light of that, like we want to be people who see a need that we can meet and we meet it. And know there's a part to play, so we play it. And know that we have something in our own cup and we want to choose to pour it out. In light of that, like in light of wanting to be people who meet needs that we can meet and play parts that we're called to play and that we have the ability to play and pour out of our own cup what we have the opportunity and ability to pour out of our own cup. In light of wanting to be those people, this is a big, important question, and I want to encourage you and challenge you as your pastor to ask this question. And the question is simply this. It's 4 words. How can I help? How can I help? Is there something that I can do to help? I can't do everything, but is there one thing that I can do to help you? I can't solve every problem, but if there's one problem I could solve, what is it? Is there a way that I can bring my strengths to cover your weaknesses? Is there a way that I can use my skills to support your efforts? How can I help? And now to the husbands out there, you got to be a little careful with this today. Today is Mother's Day. If you ask this question too quickly, even take apart that's Mother's Day. If you ask this question too quickly, you will get hit with, you're only asking because Chris told you to ask. You also can't put it off too long because you'll get hit with, well, Chris told you to ask and you didn't even ask how to help, okay? It's a tightrope, but it's one worth asking. To ask your spouse, to ask your wife, to ask the mother of your children, how can I help? Like beyond what I know to do. Is there something today that I can do to help? Is there something in the life of our children, in the life of our family, that I could do, and it would take some of the weight off of you? How can I help? If you're a boss, you should get in the habit of asking your employees this question, because yes, you sign their checks so that they will do their jobs. But if you will ask this question, I'm just telling you, you will be in that small category of bosses that people talk about, and they'll get 10 years down the road, and maybe they work for a different company, or maybe they still work for your company. And when people ask about the best people that they've ever worked for, they'll mention you because you were not afraid to roll up your sleeves. You were not afraid to get involved. You were willing to do the difficult things. You were willing to get personally involved. You were willing to use your talents and use your skills and use your abilities to help them be the best employees that they could be while you were their employer. You will be on that short list of bosses that they loved working for. If they're still working for you 10 years from now, these types of questions will be the reason that they stayed in their job when someone else was offering them more money. Because you made the decision to be a great boss who sees needs and meets them, who knows that you have a part that you can play and decides to play it, and uses what's in your cup and pours it out for the benefit of your employees. If you're a parent, here's something I'm figuring out. You should get in the habit of asking your kids this question. And this is something that, again, I'm really realizing this because as my kids get older, I assume I know the ways they need help because of how they needed help in the past. And there are times that I'm bringing yesterday's help to today's problems. And so I need to get in the habit of understanding that, first of all, my kids are two different people, and they're living in different situations, and one's in second grade and one's in kindergarten, and neither of them are no longer, say, 2-year-olds who still need bottles and who still need diapers and who need naps and who need whatever they needed back then. They don't need what they needed back then, and I'm not at school watching them all the time where they're facing situations in relationships. So I'm learning to ask the question: is there any way that I can help? And I'm trying to learn to ask that question more and more and more because I want to be a great dad. I want to be a great parent. If you want to be a great parent, we need to get in the habit of, what is it that I can do to help? Is there something that I can do to help? If there's any way that I can bring my adultness and bring my bigness and bring my I've walked this road, bring my wisdom, bring whatever I've got, is there a way that I can help? Because I want to serve you. How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? If you want to be great, the way that Jesus would define greatness, the way that Jesus said that's great, if you want to be great like that, let's get in the habit of asking, how can I help? And when we see a need, we decide that we can meet, we decide to meet it. And when we see a part that we can play in helping someone, we decide that we're going to play that part. And when we have something in our cup that we can pour out, even if it's not enough to meet the whole need, it doesn't fill anybody else's cup, we simply make the decision that as a Jesus follower, that we're going to pour out our cup because our Savior has called us to pour out our cup. And He has said, that's great. Would you let me pray for you today? Heavenly Father, thank you so much for who you are. Thank you for your love for us, your grace for us, everything that you have for us, everything that you are to us. And God, I simply pray that as we're talking about through this entire series, that we'll make a decision to be great. We'll make a decision to live a life that you have said is great. God, help us to have wisdom to see the opportunity. But God, so often we see all the opportunities. We're already seeing them. God, would you give us the courage to stop talking ourselves out of them? And so, God, when we see a need that we can meet, would you help us to meet it? When we see that there's a part that we can play for someone else, would you help us to play it? And God, when there's something that's in our cup and we can pour it out for the benefit of someone else, would you help us to pour it out? God, help us ask the question, how can we help? Help us to not be people who see an opportunity and pass it by, who not see an opportunity and talk ourselves out of it. But God, help us to be people who see a need and choose to serve. in whatever way we can, with whatever resources we have. Would you help us to be people who see a need and choose to serve? And God, as we do that, would you help us to be great? Would you help us to be truly great? Not just great at some things, but be people who are truly great. And God, as we do that, would we reflect the greatness of you? Would we reflect to the world around us that there's a God who loves them? There's a God who cares for them. There's a God who sent us to meet their need because you ultimately came to meet their greatest need. So God, help us to do that. Help us have eyes to see. Help us have the courage to act, to go and do likewise. And in doing so, to be truly great. We love you, God. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Creation obeys when you speak. Dark comes to light, death comes to life. Jesus, when you breathe, you are the one calming the wind and the waves. You make a way, your promise remains. God, you never change. You always will be God alone, seated on the throne, King of all majesty. You reign in victory. You always will be God alone, seated on the throne. Jesus, be glorified, forever lifted high. You are the one, the Lion who rose from the grave. The stone rolled away. You overcame. You're worthy of all praise. You always will be God alone, seated on the throne, King of all majesty. You reign in victory. You always will be God alone, seated on the throne. Jesus, be glorified, forever lifted high. All the glory is yours. always will be God alone, seated on the throne, King of all majesty. You reign in victory. You always will be God alone, seated on the throne. Jesus be glorified, forever lifted high.
The more I see, the more I find to love, the more I know, the more I can't withhold my heart. I'm still amazed by who you are. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're holy. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're lovely. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. With every day, another reason why. With every breath, another chance to give my heart. I'm still amazed by who you are. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're holy. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're lovely. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're holy. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're lovely. Somehow it never gets old telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. How could there be more when you've already been so good? How could there be more when you've already been so kind? What else can I say? I'm still amazed by you. Come on, sing it. How could there be more when you've already been so good? How could there be more when you've already been so kind? What else can I say? Yeah, I'm still amazed by you. I'm still, I'm still amazed by you. gets old telling you you're worthy. For as long as I live, I'll never get tired of giving you praise. I'm giving you praise. I pour my love on you. I pour my love on you. With you, Lord, because you're holy, perfect. You're holy, holy. You're holy, holy, Lord, you are.
Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us today for Movement Church Online. Hopefully you enjoyed worship. Hopefully the teaching was helpful and challenging and hope-filled. And today, as we close out service, we just have a few ways that we want to encourage you to engage with our church beyond this weekend service. First of all, we want to let you know the ways that you can give. If you want to give, or if you are a giver, we just want to remind you the ways that you can. You can give online. You can give with our Cash App, or you can give with by sending a cash or check offering to the P.O. box that's on screen. But however and whenever you give, seriously, thank you so much for your generosity, for continuing to believe in and invest in the mission of our church to help people take a first step or a next step in their relationship with Jesus Christ. We couldn't do what we do without you. Thank you so much for your generosity. And if you have a need, we would love to hear from you so we know how we can be the church for you. If there's a way we can pray for you, if there's a way we can pastor you and be there with you, if there's a way we can partner with you to meet your need, we certainly would love to know that so we can do what we just talked about. Know a need, see a need, help meet a need, whatever that may be. So please reach out by phone, by Facebook, or by email, and we would love to be the church for you in your time of need. That's all we've got for you today. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We're so grateful for you. We hope you have a great day. We hope you have a great week until we see you the next time. Until then, have a great day, have a great week, and keep being the movement.